Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 206. I trust you are still doing well. Fall is creeping in, but boy, I'm telling you, we've pissed off somebody with wildfires and hurricanes, earthquakes, pandemics. Pretty soon, our pixels are going to go dead. Then what are we going to do, right? Well, until then, let's just keep celebrating photography. Thanks so much for spending a little time with me on your Monday. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com. In case you hadn't noticed, their PhotoCon has gone virtual like so many different events this year. It's going to be next month. Those who have tickets will get into the virtual classes, the PhotoCon itself. I've been asked to be part of it. I have prepping a whole new class for it. So I hope you go to PhotoCon, sign up for it. When it comes to buying some goodies, heading to bedfords.com. Make sure that when you check out, phone, web, however, you put in that special discount code MOOSE. Save you some real money. So thank you, Bedfords, for sponsoring the Moose Podcast, and continue on with education for all of us. Let's get right to this week's podcast. Practice makes perfect. Now, you do have to know that a majority of my podcasts come from real life experiences. Something, be it email, and I got a bunch of emails this past week with questions. I know one of you was disappointed that I chose to answer by email rather than a podcast, but it only took a few sentences. Sorry. Anyway, these experiences is what triggers my thought process to make a podcast. So what triggered this one? Practice makes perfect. Well, as a photographer, homeowner, father, woodworker, writer, all those things, practice does help. Okay, practice didn't help my singing, but that's a whole nother story. So when it comes to photography, practice makes perfect. Does it? My good friend Vinny Versace said forever that perfect practice makes for perfect. How do you say it? Perfect practice makes for perfect pictures. That's how he said it. Bunch of P's in there. But here's the thing. What is perfect practice, right? I mean, don't you have to practice to get to perfect practice? Because you can't start right off the bat doing things perfectly. So then practice makes perfect. You know what I mean? How does that work? Well, I think it's the heart of the matter that counts, not the letter of the word. Many years ago, many years ago, this is back in the D1X days, I was in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, literally. True story. And I was there with some people, and we're photographing grizzly bears. It's a place you couldn't drive to, couldn't take a boat to. You could only get to by plane. Quiet Lodge. And it was one evening, sitting down for dinner, and a plane landed out on the beach. And everybody kind of said, well, you expecting somebody? And everybody kept saying, yeah, no, not at all. Well, the lodge owner sent out a person with an ATV and a trailer because the pilot said there's a person there coming to join us. Nobody we knew. Nobody was scheduled. There was literally no room in the inn. So after a little while, eating dinner, we're sitting there, had our dessert, relaxing. We see this person come up to the lodge who just basically, literally invited himself to the whole thing. I guess he figured that, just showing up was all it was required. Of course, the fact that he had to fly back out that night because there was literally no place for him, that's a whole other story. But getting to the point, he pulls up and we're looking at, normally when you fly in, you got your camera bag, you got your duffel, and that's it, right? Well, the back of the trailer was full of cardboard boxes. I got to tell you, it really piqued my interest. A little bit of a gusty wind out there, and they go out there and they kind of give him the bad news that, yeah, well, it's great you came, but there's no room in the inn. You didn't pay to be there, and nobody knew you were coming. So other than that, it's a perfect plan. Well, the person said, well, since I'm here, can I at least shoot until the plane leaves? Guess that was okay. I had no something to say about any of this. I'm just watching the whole thing and was told a story later what was being said. So we're watching, and I'm just intrigued by all these cardboard boxes. So they start opening them up. And then I start seeing those old familiar Nikon gold boxes. You know, you see bodies and lenses that come in brand new. And I'm not making this up. You can't make this stuff up. The person had gone to the web, saw the gear that I used to photograph grizzly bears, literally gone and bought all this gear, had not even taken it out of the box yet, just brought it in the box. It was shipped to him in the store and came right to Alaska to shoot grizzly bears. And I flattered that he thought my list was so worthy that he spent one hell of a lot of money, but he showed up in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, without even taking gear out of the box. And of course, he couldn't shoot because the battery for the camera had not been charged. And yeah, digital cameras tend to need that electricity. So he was toast. So practice makes perfect. The very basic essence of this is the fact that you've got to take the camera out. You've got to sit there and use it to make sure that, one, it's functioning. 2, practice some basic techniques. 3, practice being behind the camera and comfortable. 4, get your mind into moving elements around the viewfinder. To 5, be able to tell your story. But you can't get to 5 without 1. I mean, you can't get to 1 if you don't understand about 5. So practice makes perfect. One of the things that it just happens a lot, and I have no doubt that when I started out, I made these mistakes. There's no way I could not have. I know that 40 years later, I sure don't. And I know I talk about them, write about them, but I'm always just flabbergasted when I see these things happen. Happens all the time. Whether they're with me or I witness it. Somebody goes to someplace special, pulls out that camera, pulls out that lens, attaches or tries to attach that tripod head to a tripod or a flash to a hot shoe. And all of a sudden they find out that the thread on top of the tripod has been mucked up. So now the tripod head won't screw on. The flash, they forgot to bring the key component to it, be it the wireless remote or AA batteries, or the flash is not even working. Or the classic is, they sit there and they haven't pulled their gear out, so they haven't done basic hand holding. And you know that I tell you to do that. Recommend, I should say. I don't tell you to do anything. Recommend you do it every day for these 5 minutes. And that means you're sitting there using the camera that all of a sudden the autofocus ain't working. Maybe it's the camera, more likely it's you. But without that practice, how can you make perfect? Or even start making things get close to perfect? It's, to me, utterly unbelievable that this still happens. And photographers being photographers, it has to be someone else's fault, not our own. The guy at the store sold us the wrong thing, or what we thought we needed didn't arrive at the right time, or something broke, or the settings are wrong. It is something other than just the fact that, humans being humans, being a little bit lazy, didn't take time to practice to make perfect. Okay? And the consequences of this, of course, you miss the photograph, which is the whole purpose of being a photographer and going out. But practice makes perfect? No, but it gets you in the game. That's really important. Because without all that, how do you move the ball forward? I mean, for example, 2 months ago, I guess it was, time's really flying for us around here. We're out, and all of a sudden, it became painfully obvious that we needed a single lens for the Z body to do some basic shooting, fly fishing. So what would do that? And then I wanted some simple thing for just body and lens in the back of the vehicle for traveling around, just to always have it. Then I wanted another lens to work with my Z's, my air-to-air. And it's just like all those things, practice trying to make perfect. It was obvious that I needed to get the new Z24-200. I mean, that's really how a lot of the camera gear ends up in my camera bag, and how a lot of camera gear gets out of my locker is simply practice makes perfect. Does it get used? Does it not get used? Does it solve the problems? Not solve the problems. I have a lot of the questions this last week. Sorry why I didn't answer your question again on the podcast, but I'm kind of get there. Nikon just unveiled 2 new Z lenses, a 50 1.2 and a 14 to 24 2.8. And I would seriously love to have those lenses in my locker. I would love to have like the 120-300. I mean, I could list a whole lot of lenses, more than what I actually have in my camera bag, that I would like to have in my camera bag. But because I'm always out there practicing make perfect, I know that lens or this lens is right or not right for my photography, for my business, for my storytelling, for my accountant, for my, sense of well-being. I mean, the 14 to 24 2.8 Z lens, sexy lens. I've already talked to one person who shot with it. The images are spectacular. Doing things like, heavenly bodies and make life easy. Even it will take filters, even if it's 112 millimeter. It's a killer lens. I just can't justify it. Now, I've talked about many times the 180 or 400, how I went down the same road. Could all of a sudden that lens end up in my desk and in the locker, and I find it, I can't live without it? Of course it's possible. I know I have the 14-24 for the FX. I've had that since the day it was released for the D3, years and years. I keep it because it's still a beautiful lens. I rarely use it very much. So this whole process of photography, practice makes perfect. I don't know who came up with that. I mean, right? If that's the case, you could use that 10,000, do something 10,000 times formula and all seem really good. So I just heard about a D810 that went in for repair, and the shutter had 4.4 million actuations. I mean, that's whoever that photographer is, he must be bloody great, because he's well past 10,000 and he's definitely been practicing. But we all know it doesn't work that way, right? It's like so many things out there. There are these great sayings that at the moment sound good, but going down the road, they just can sometimes frustrate the bejiggers out of you. So practice makes perfect only when you put your sincere heart into that practice with an actual end game. You want to see if it works. Does it work for you? And then apply that many times to make sure the law of averages are with you. So just keep in mind that in this photographic game, time is the one thing that you've always give yourself. It's the one thing that's going to always make things perfect. You guys stay safe, wear that mask, and remember to make every click your story.